What's up guys, Will here with Rennthusiast, my YouTube channel about Porsche ownership. And in this video, I'm going to be comparing my 2009 Porsche 911, the 997.2 Carrera S trim in manual, with my 2017 Porsche 911, my 991.2 Carrera S, also in manual. This is a long-awaited video. I've had a lot of requests for this one. I am not necessarily going to come at this from a tech spec, performance, let's duke it out on a track perspective, but instead, I'm just going to give you an honest owner's eye view of what it's like to own these cars. This video, I think, will be a good fit for somebody who's looking at both of these models, trying to decide which one is the right one for them. I would say it's also a good fit for somebody who's looking to spend anywhere from $65,000 to $85,000 on one of these cars. They are very, very different from one another. There's a lot of hype around the 997.2. I think a lot of it's justified. I think there's a reason people are chasing these particular cars, but I also think there's a lot of merits to the 991.2. In my case, the 997.2 that I have, it's a Guards Red example. It has 83,000 miles. It's been slightly modified. My 991.2 has 40,000 miles on it. Many of those miles I have put on the car. I'm going to be comparing visually side by side the cars. I'm going to be talking with you a little bit about the exterior, the interior. At the end of the video, I'm going to take you on a ride in each car, and then I'll tell you which one I think is actually the better car. Before we jump into that though, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to this channel. I cover all things Porsche, not from the standpoint of the newsroom guy, but instead, I just tell you what it's like to own these cars. So subscribe to this channel to get this type of video. I also have a podcast where we weekly talk Porsche. So if you're somebody who's looking for Porsche content in your car behind the windshield, that's a good fit for you. Go look us up on Spotify and Apple Podcasts or anywhere else where you get your podcast content. Let us now jump in. Okay, here we are, a side-by-side comparison between the 2009, the Guards Red car right there, and the 2017, the one on the left there, the black car. I thought what we could do is just get some walk-around footage for you so that you can visually compare the cars side by side. I know a lot of times it's not really easy to get two generations of 911s that are within striking range price-wise, and two generations of 911s that people are often comparing and deciding to purchase one or the other. You don't often get footage of them side by side to really take it in. First thing I notice, and this does show up when you're driving the car, the 991 is notably larger than the 997. And the size is something that a lot of people are celebrating on this 997, and I do think that the dimensions are part of the reason there's a lot of hype around the car. It is a smaller car. It is more reminiscent of the 911s of the days of old, like this 993, just smaller and manageable. Get you guys some rear footage and tell me this isn't the best angle on any 911. My goodness. As far as my personal preference, and by the way, sorry about the lighting, guys. I am going to have new lighting installed, and hopefully that'll give us a better video. As far as my personal preference, I gotta say, the 991 rear end is a clear winner for me. I love the tailpipes. I mean, I've done a review on this car. I've done a number of videos on this car on my channel. The funny thing about this car, I mean, and like I said, I've done a ton of content on it, is I bought this car twice. I bought it, drove it, enjoyed it, shot content on it, sold it because I had a 992 inbound. Don't buy a 992. I got bored with the 992 and I started to want a 991.2 again. So I approached the gentleman I had sold the car to. He agreed to sell it to me. So yes, indeed, I love the 991.2 so much, I bought it twice. Part of the reason is I love this rear end. It has the vertical slats here. It has the thinner tail lights that look so cool when they're lit up. It's got that wide rear end on it. I'll get into exhaust note a little later when I'm driving the car, but I just love the exhaust note on this thing too. Now, here's the thing about this particular 997.2. And again, I think Guards Red makes this a standout example. You just don't see a lot of the red ones. But the taillights on this car, I am a little unclear. These are not the ones that are very, very typical. I think these are GT3 taillights, and I do believe this car was spec'd with them from the factory. I may get some pushback out there in the comments saying, hey, that's not true, it can't be, somebody put them on after the fact, but I think that it was ordered with these taillights. In terms of tailpipes, you got the quad pipes here. The exhaust note, I have talked about this in previous videos in the 997. It is pretty tame out of the box. I am running Pfister modified mufflers in a Sharkworks X pipe. It has woken the exhaust up. I've done a video on that. It's in the 997.2 playlist if you're interested, but really cosmetically, I think I prefer the tailpipes on this 991 as well. So I don't know if you guys are starting to see like where I'm coming from so far, but I mean, I put 20,000 miles on this car. That's all I can say. And by the way, so I don't know, I probably put 1,200, 1,500 on this one. Let's talk about wheels. I am going to be embarrassed to say this, and man, you know, I'm starting to get, I'm not going to say I'm starting to. I get the commenters out there that say, hey man, you don't know what you're talking about because you don't have all the proper terminology. I can't remember what these wheels are called, but I will say this. They are period correct for the car. I have no plans to change them. Candidly, when the cars were new, so back in the early teens, I really didn't love them. And I did have a 997.2, it was a PDK car, C4S, had these wheels on it, and I swapped them out for the Carrera Classic, which I think are good looking wheels as well. But I decided to keep these wheels on here because they're correct. I also love that they're very, very easy to clean. Speaking of wheels though, this is a negative for this 991.2. These Spider wheels, when clean, are freaking killer. They are maybe a titanium gray, which initially I didn't think I was gonna like when I first went to see the car. I had heard it had darker wheels, but when they are clean, this gray on black is amazing, and you've got that polished bead there, which really helps kind of break up all that black and gray. And so I love the look of these wheels. I hate cleaning them. I borderline love the look of these wheels, love cleaning them. I'm going around to the front end here. This car for 84,000 miles is freaking immaculate. You know, and I get itchy. I've been giving thought to selling this car. I'm kind of interested in something else, but when I think about this car gone from my garage, I just believe I'm gonna regret it. But looking at this, by the way, the previous owner put some sort of radar detector in here, and that's what those horizontal little bars are there. They're reportedly like laser jammers too, so I haven't really tested it. I'll put it this way, I haven't gotten busted yet, but that's what those are in case you're wondering. Headlights definitely have an older look. Your running lights are, I tend to like them, that LED always lit kind of deal going on with those lights. People do have them coated out though, so they don't run all the time. Coming over here, front of this car definitely looks more modern. The headlights more modern. It's got that, you know, little front air dam thing, spoiler down there. I have rubbed that on the pavement many times. Don't really care, it's a replaceable part. But you can see, I'll back up for you. You know, that 991.2 is wider. It looks lower. Speaking of stance, this is 20 millimeters lower from the factory, and so I think that shows up in the stance. This guy right here, if I had any complaints about it right now, I got it pretty dialed in except for the suspension. I'm so torn because, again, I mean, thinking about selling this car, I don't want to put any more money into it. I mean, you do the suspension right, depending on what you do, it's $3,500 to $6,000. It's a game changer. The stance is freaking killer, and the handling is way improved, which is really the primary objective. Let's go inside now. We'll start here. The 997.2, one of the most notable upgrades over the 997.1 is the interior. I mean, there's a lot there though. The motor, the PDK, you know, all the things that have been improved over the 997.1. But the interior is the first thing you'll see. Okay, I have zoomed out, so you're gonna see a little bit of fisheye, but I want you to be able to take in all the interior. The center stack, in my view, is very, very visually attractive over the 997.1. You cannot stream to it without some sort of mods that I'm not going to get into, but I'm just running this wire. Wire goes in there, and I can plug in my phone. I get the tunes I want, and that's enough for me. But I really find that these buttons are excellent. Steering wheel, honestly, not my favorite. I love the 991.2 steering wheel. This is thicker up top, very simple, very driver focused. You don't have a lot of buttons. Love the analog gauges in here. Sport chrono, turn on the sport button. So yeah, Alcantara roof liner, memory buttons. Okay, back out of the car. there is one thing I am sure that you have noticed. It's these Recaro Sportster CS seats. I decided that with the higher mileage, I wanted to just dial a couple things in. I've gotten to a place in my journey with these cars that I don't, I just don't mod for the sake of modding anymore. And I think certain cars just need to be stock. So for example, this GT4 here, man, I don't need to modify this car. And also like this Boxster back here, which God, I'm also toying with selling because you can see it's a storage issue. But I'm leaving that 100% period because that car deserves it. It's low mileage, 28,000 miles. This 993, I've done some work to, but I consider it kind of stage 2, kind of understated, subtle, tasteful mods. But on this 997.2, because it is high mileage, I just felt like I wanted to mod it. So I did the exhaust and I did the seats. And guys, if you're looking for an aftermarket seat option that just makes a lot of sense, these are the ones. Getting your hands on a pair of these seats is not easy. Just take it from me. I'm not going to tell the story of that. I'll do a video on these seats in and of themselves. I think you want the Sportster CSs if you're looking for some. They fold forward, as you can see. Super comfortable. If you wanted to dress them up a little bit, you can do the centers. But anyway, I digress. Cool interior, comfortable interior. One downside to this car, by the way, is that the HVAC system will spit foam at you, like the 996, and that was a surprise to me. I did not know that this generation of 911 spat out the occasional black foam. So if you're going to get into one of these, you should know. I will talk about the manual gear shift action at length when I drive the car. All right, let's get in here. And oh yeah, by the way, you'll notice that the gear shifter is closer to that in the floor kind of heritage that the older cars have. And when you look at this car and how that manual sets up, it feels like the seating position in this car, it feels like you're more in a kind of a control, almost airplane type of seating position. So let me now widen the lens and we'll jump in. So you'll notice here, man, like much more modern look. Bluetooth streaming connection. The gear shifter is higher, just a more modern look here. I will say again, I'll talk about this in the driving segment of this video, but I am running GT4 short shifter, and it is a game changer for this car. The throws were very long as it came stock. I didn't want to get into a bunch of weird aftermarket stuff, so I was really pleasantly surprised to learn that you could use a GT4 shifter. So that's what I did. This car is always in sport mode when I'm driving it. I do it mainly for the exhaust feature. Like, I don't drive, if a Porsche has a sport exhaust, like, I'm rolling with the sport exhaust. I like that the car still has some analog gauges here. You do get the readout there, but it's still around. The 992, man, they were getting into a place where it's just all digital and it's a bummer. This car, I had a guy take a peek at this car and he called it a driver spec Carrera S, and I have to agree. So the first time around that I owned the car, I was in this place where I thought I really wanted a dressy, modern Porsche. So I wanted full leather and all the gadgets on it. So that's part of the reason I sold it. But my, how we learned. I've come to really love this bare bones kind of, not a lot of frills example. You got the memory settings here. Seating's very comfortable. I like the seats in the car. I have no plans to change them out. It's very spacious. I've done so many road trips in this car, and it's fast enough, okay, on the highway to overtake other cars. It's fun, but it can be comfortable. Two complaints that I'll say about this car. First of all, it has gotten very loud on the highway. I put some new tires on the rear and it quieted down just for a little bit. Michelin's Pilot Sport 4S's, but now it's all loud again. So that's just something to think about. If you're trying to drive with your significant other on a road trip, it's gonna be loud. Something else I'll tell you is that at 39.7, it has developed a few rattles. And also this door will rattle with the or the bass all the way up on the stereo. In terms of common problems or failure points, the 991.2, I'm gonna knock on wood. This particular car has been bulletproof for me. Now, they are known to have a failing water pump issue, and it was so widespread that Porsche has warranted these water pumps on these cars for 10 years from date of manufacture. So this is a 17 and it's under warranty until 27. The water pump had to be replaced once on the car. The seller, the first seller, actually had a leak, So when I bought the car, I just took it over to the Porsche dealership and they replaced it. I'm not sure about a lot of other faults on this particular generation. I think, you know, from what I've read and from my personal experience, they tend to be pretty reliable. This guy right here, I mentioned earlier, you're getting into that, like the foam shooting out of the HVAC vents. These cars also suffer from bore scoring. I had this car borescoped when I bought it as part of the PPI. This one's clean, but they do have that going on. As an item of interest too, the tailpipes, like the motor, the DFI motor that they put in this to get rid of the IMS bearing altogether, among other things. Your tailpipes will get very sooty. I cleaned these for the sake of this video, but that's just an item of interest for you. Bore scoring, the HVAC system throwing black foam. I would love to hear in the comments other common problems with the car. So now I want to jump in each car, take you for a ride, and tell you which one I think is better. All right, folks, here we are sitting in the 997.2. A couple of comments I'm going to make before we get underway here. Number one, I just drove the car maybe 5-10 miles prior to starting this video, and here's why. This car behaves so much better once you get it warmed up. I have touched on this in a couple of videos. The gear shifter, when you're going from first to second before it gets warm, it can almost kind of like nick going into second. And when I say that, it's just like a little hitch. I recently changed the gear oil and did the function first shifter cable and mod, and that did change it a little bit. I've noticed the more miles I put on it since the PTX swap, it has stopped doing that. You know, so I like to get the fluids up to temperature before I really spend a lot of time driving the car on camera. And that's why. When I first bought the car, and again I touched on this in my intro video, like that little hitch showed up when I was driving the car off. Uh-oh, shit. Feels like maybe there's some synchro issue in second. That's great. And I was really worried that it was synchros, but it was not. This is a common thing with these 997s. Believe it or not, and really it kind of reminds me of early cars in the sense of, you know, just having to know what you're doing when you're driving the car. Let's get underway here. Dimensions. The size of this car is definitely smaller as people talk about it, and that's very obvious when you start to look at the specs on it, excuse me. So, you know, I don't need to talk much about that. You're going to see when I get into the 991.2 just how different it is. Something else that people talk about a lot is this hydraulic steering on this car, and for sure you get a much better feel through the wheel. You get a much better sense of what's going on with the road, and you know, that is reminiscent of the earlier cars. And I say earlier cars, what I mean is before they put in the electric steering, as they did in the 991.2. So you're gonna feel that. So if you're an enthusiast and you're looking for that mechanical feel or that more visceral feel, you're gonna get that through this steering. I have found this car to be very quick, surprisingly quick. When I drive it, I do not drive it in sport. It tends to be a little bit touchy for my taste. Meaning that it's almost a little bit too responsive. It is very adequate power-wise in, you know, regular non-sport mode. The big thing that I'll talk about for me with this particular example with 84,000 miles is that the suspension is tired, and it's so funny, guys. Like, if you've been watching me and my channel, like I am in and out of these cars because I get really itchy for the next experience and the next car, and I like the hunt, and I like to see what I can turn up when I start to, you know, do my thing in terms of trying to find the next Porsche that I want. And I was starting to think about letting go of this 997.2 as I was, you know, prior to shooting this video. But now that I'm spending time with the car, and now that I'm comparing it to that 991.2, I'm finding that I'm, you know, falling in love with this car. So I'm giving thought to doing the suspension, and so I will, you know, continue to contemplate that and
if I do that, I will for sure do some content on that process. I do run PASM, which stiffens up the suspension, but honestly, it almost brings the suspension to a place where I would think it should be, versus like when I have that off, the car really kind of wanders. Now, it could be an alignment issue, whatever. Comparing to the 991.2, and again, it's a younger car, 40,000 miles versus 84,000 miles. That 991.2 feels much more precise when I'm, pushing on it, and really at any point in time. It tracks straight. This car might wander and grab the crown, but I'm not saying that that's unique to this particular platform. What I am saying is if you are going to get a higher mileage example, I would strongly recommend having the suspension looked at, making sure that everything is where you want it, or at least also budgeting in having the suspension redone. I think if you are an enthusiast versus, and I shouldn't say this, I can't think of the right terminology, like the 991.2 ticks a lot of boxes for me too, and I would consider myself a real enthusiast. But this car right here is more of a driver's car, less of a touring car. That 991.2 that we're getting ready to jump in is bigger, it's more comfortable, it's not as flickable, if you will. I mean, the car, that 991.2 does shrink as you drive it more, meaning that you learn the dimensions and it feels less big. But I mean, I've had buddies jump in who, they're driving 993s and they get into that 991.2 and they're just not that into it. I did have a buddy, I want to talk about this and then we'll jump into 991.2. I have a friend of mine who kind of advised me or cautioned me against buying this car, this 997, given that I have the 991. He said, hey, there's going to be a lot of redundancy in it. And I don't know, I respectfully differ. I think between the size, between the steering, and most notably between how the engine makes the power, I think that they would be, hell, I think they are clearly worth owning side by side because you're going to get different enough experiences. Now we're going to jump in the 991.2, and then I'm going to tell you which car I think is the better buy. Okay, here we are in the 991.2. I've gone ahead and driven the car just a little bit to get the fluids warmed up. As you can see here, more modern interface versus the 997.2. Seating position in this car is different from the 997.2, especially how I like to set it up. So I put the seat on this car all the way to the floor. So really it kind of puts me in this position of feeling like I'm down in the car, versus with the 997.2, the way that everything sets up, the dash and the gear shifter position, you feel like you're up a little bit higher. It feels like a little bit more of a traditional 911. By this point in time, Porsche had created a situation where the gear shifter is up a little bit higher. You have this, I don't know if tunnel cover is the right term, but this console is raised, so you feel like you're down in it. And especially for me, with my seating position preference, that's just how it feels. This thing has the bolster, or excuse me, the seat bottom thigh support extender, and I do run the car with that all the way out. As you can see here, I have the car set up in sport mode. I touched on that earlier. I always run it in sport. I've never bothered to set up the individual mode, meaning that when you can program the car to have everything set up just like you want it, and then that way when you turn it to individual, it will just automatically configure to what you want. I've found that sport is good enough for me. Yeah, that's it. Let's get underway. I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about what it's like to drive, and I'm gonna try to capture exhaust notes. What is cool about this car is you hear the turbo whistle as the car builds, and I don't know if you're going to hear it on camera. Immediately what you do notice after jumping out of that 997.2, and by the way, I've been driving that car around this morning. I wasn't able to do these two driving segments back to back. I did them over 2 days, but I've been driving the 997.2 around town running errands. I took my daughter to the orthodontist and to school this morning in it, so I do have fresh perspective jumping out of this car, that car into this car, and man, I mean, this car does feel a lot bigger when you're jumping out of one of those other cars. Now that said, for me, I've put a lot of miles in miles of seat time in this car, and so it's not overwhelming. But I do think that people who aren't used to it jump into this and it feels monstrous. Car goes where you point it. You know, as soon as you learn the dimensions, it's really not a problem at all. And, you know, this road is fine. It's not particularly challenging. I have had this car on very challenging roads and I found it to be very manageable. So the dimensions are probably going to be the first thing that you'll want to think through if you're looking at both of these cars. You know, do you want a smaller, more traditional feel, or are you looking to get into something that might feel a little bit bigger, more spacious, more comfortable? That's the question you have to ask yourself. Now, the second big piece with this car is the fact that it's got a turbo motor in it. It's a 3-liter flat 6 turbocharged engine, and therefore the power it makes, it feels very different in how it makes power from the 997.2, thus removing any redundancy if you should ever elect to own both of those cars side by side. But I guess what I'm saying to you is the way that this engine behaves, the way that it feels with a little bit of turbo lag or boost building, makes it entertaining, engaging, and fun when you drive it back to back against that 997.2. So that said, this engine, what Porsche has done is they've given it, I guess maybe my mechanic told me at this point in time, and if I'm wrong, please shoot me down in the comments or add some value and weigh in. But my mechanic told me it's a high compression motor, so you get a lot of torque down low, and that compensates for or overcomes any real turbo lag. So it's got torque down low to get you off the line, and then the turbo spools up. I mean, it is a hoot. Going 80 before you know it. By the way, thank God for this unit in R7. So yeah, I mean, the turbo coming on just like that is a freaking blast. The engine sound, I mean, for sure it sounds different than a normally aspirated motor, but I find it exceptionally engaging. I will say this, if you're driving the car spiritedly and you're not used to what the car does, I mean, there is a noticeable increase or buildup of boost. So let's say you are in the middle of a switchback, you're getting in the gas pretty hard, trying to exit that corner, and the boost comes on and you don't really know how to modulate or how to predict what it's going to do. The car does feel like it wants to put you in the woods. It wants to put you off the side of the road. With that being said, I've never gotten into a lot of trouble with the car. I mean, I've felt the back end move on me a little bit, but I'm able to kind of back off so that it doesn't get super scary. I would imagine that with like the traction control, the nannies on this car, I feel like, and I don't want to be too cavalier about it, but I feel like the car would definitely save you if you started to get into trouble. A couple other notable points besides the dimensions and the way the engine feels. This transmission, I love how it shifts. Now, I touched on this earlier. It has a GT4 short shift kit that I put in it. It's a Porsche factory part. Big thumbs up for that. The clutch action on this car is interesting. You don't really have to push the clutch in very far to get the gears to very smoothly change. So it's not like you're pushing the clutch all the way to the floor. The rev match, I haven't really touched on that. I really like rev match on, for example, a GT4, on the 981 Spider I had, and on this car. I always have rev match on. It comes on with the sport function on. And, you know, some people might say, hey, you know, you're cheating. I mean, possibly. You could turn it off if you wanted to, and, you know, you could rev match yourself. I think it's really fun regarding like how precise it is when the car rev matches itself. What's nice about it too is you can downshift mid-corner and it does not upset the chassis like it would if you missed, you know, a perfect rev match over under. I want to talk a little bit about the fact that this is a 7-speed, not a 6-speed. And I'm going to jump on the highway in a moment, but until you master the 7-speed and the fact that it has 7 gears, like this is the first car I've ever had that has more than 6 gears. And it sounds very funny or weird or simplistic, But when you're on the highway and you're cruising in 7th and you kind of zone out and then you realize you got to downshift after a few miles, you're kind of like, man, am I in 5th or am I in 7th? And you can get sort of confused, you know, when you're not totally like zoned in on the thing, right? So in other words, you may kind of forget what gear you're in and you have to fool around a little bit. I mean, there's no, unless you really suck at driving manual, there's no chance that you're gonna like pull it down in 2nd or put it in 3rd going 80 or something like that, right? So I don't think you're gonna damage anything or over rev the motor, but it is just something that takes a little bit for you to wrap your mind around. So that's the transmission. Joy to drive. I really like it. It's fast. The rev match is killer. So, you know, I have been very, very happy with the manual transmission in this car. That said, and again, I'm real careful on this channel. I don't talk about things I don't have experience with. I've never driven a PDK 991.2, but I would imagine that PDK mates up with this car very well, mates up with this motor very well. Exhaust note, they have this wonderful pop and burble that I am quite confident has been programmed in. So on decel, you're gonna hear it pop. The acceleration sounds great. Let me jump over to a little bit of exhaust footage for you just so you can hear it. So yeah, I must say I'm a fan. In my experience with turbo engines in the past, they often have a pretty sedate or lackluster exhaust note, but I just gotta say, in the case of this 991.2, I think it's got a superior exhaust note to the 997.2. Talking to you a little bit about like just the steering wheel, how the dash sets up, I find it all to be very comfortable. The seating position is exceptional in this car. The seat quality is exceptional. And, you know, that brings me to sort of the last, I won't even say it. And that brings me to the touring or the road trip aspect of this car, the daily drivability of this car. Hang on, have a little fun here. I mean, that never gets old, never gets old. So, you know, you get on the highway, and I don't know if you guys can hear the noise. I talked about this earlier, and there we are in 7th gear. 80 miles an hour, 2,200 RPM. You can get some great gas mileage in this. On the highway, the road noise is kind of loud in this car, and I found that it gets louder with the tire as the tires age. So on the positive side, the dimensions, the comfort, as I touched on earlier, you know, the power, this is a great long road trip car. It is a great daily driver. The 997.2, I've not done any road trips in it. I mean, I've put some highway miles in it. You can absolutely get almost the similar experience that you get in this car out of that car on the highway, meaning that very, very comfortable for long distances, you know, good gas mileage. But at the end of the day, I would say if you're looking for, you know, a kind of a side-by-side comparison between the two cars and which one would be a better long road trip car, I think it would be the 991.2. So if you're an enthusiast, you may say, hey, you know, that is not what I want. You know, I don't need a large Lexus-like road trip car. I don't know, man. I think this 991.2, for me, it evokes a lot of sentimentality for me, or it evokes a lot of sentiment for me, I should say, meaning that there's emotion here. There's character here. It brings what's fun about a 911 into a very comfortable platform. So let me now cut over, and I'm going to tell you guys exactly which car I think you should buy if you're looking at both side by side.
All right, there you have it, the 997.2 versus the 991.2. And now the question is, which is the better car? First of all, these cars are very, very different in many ways, but they also are similar in certain other ways, as you've seen. When you start to think about price points, you're in the same ballpark. And so if you're somebody who's looking at either or, you're probably here finally saying, Will, tell me which one is the better car. You own both of them. This is gonna maybe frustrate you a little bit. It really depends on your ownership goal. Are you looking for more of an enthusiast's car, something that's a little bit more analog, something a little more visceral, something a little smaller, then the 997.2 is obviously going to be the right thing for you. My personal view is that the 991.2 is the better car, the better buy, and here's why. I can use it much more broadly. So that 991.2 is a dailyable Porsche that brings into play all of the cool things about the 911. The motor in the rear, in my case, the manual transmission, the precision, the speed, the power, everything we've talked about. And so, again, it really depends on what you're trying to achieve. If you were looking for something that you can use every single day and still have fun and yes, rip back roads, 991.2 is the better buy for you. If you're looking for something that's more of a weekender that you can daily drive if you want, then that's the 997.2. The period at the end of this sentence for me is, what is a more special car? I think right now, the 997.2 is more special. People are chasing it. Not that I buy cars based on what other people are doing, but we all like a trophy, you know? We all like that trophy at the end of a hunt. And so to have a special 997.2 in manual right now is a very cool thing. You know, I think the 997.2 wins that special prize, and I also think that based on what I'm seeing, they're coming up in value. So if you buy one right, you get in it, you enjoy it, don't modify the hell out of it, and don't depreciate it. I think your money will be safe, and in fact, you might even be able to make a little bit on the exit. So there you have it, guys. This has been a marathon video for me. I've never shot anything this long, and it's been a real pleasure, actually. As I touched on earlier, it's caused me to fall back in love with that 997.2. So I will be doing suspension. I'm going to be doing some other cool things to the car. So please subscribe so that you're notified when I publish those videos, other Porsche videos, and come follow me on Instagram at Rennthusiast TV. Thanks for watching. I'm out of here.